And we're back.
Okay, we're back. So, here's one of the things that's changing. This is my son, Alexander. I basically haven't seen him for 5 years. Wow, see that? Already I'm being corrected, but that's all right. You know, hey.
You keep on correcting him, Alex. Okay.
Oh, Brian, you stay behind the camera, Brian.
Okay.
All right. So, 4.5 years. I stand corrected.
You sit corrected.
Sit corrected. Whoa, I sit corrected. Whoa, this is deep. This is already deep. So here we go. And I started seeing him. I've seen maybe 6 times now since that 4.5 year hiatus. It was like a little break. And in that break, he got up and stomped out of a therapy session with our therapist of many, many years. His mother and me had been in therapy with this woman. This woman had been written into our divorce agreement as having always going to be the legal arbiter of our family situation. But Alexander, on 7, 8, at 9, 10,
Remember that.
I remember that. 7, 8, at 9, 10. He got up 5 minutes into the session and walked out. And I didn't see him for another 4.5 years. And then his mother, a week later, after 10 years of therapy, she didn't show up for the termination session. And she's a therapist.
I didn't know that last part. But
You didn't know that last part? Well, it's true. 7:15, 10, 4, over and out. That was the last we saw of Linda.
we?
We. I use that as the royal we. That's the royal we. But never mind. So, but what goes around comes around. I mean, I just made that up. That's we should make a bumper sticker. Refuse to lose. I stuck with it. I kept writing Alexander emails every once in a while. Once in a while. And he wrote back nasty stuff. Like that I was a stone. You wrote back that I was so dumb as a stone. Don't you remember that? You don't remember that?
Dumb?
Yeah.
No, you're I think what I wrote was...
Okay. Now we're going to get the truth. Go ahead, tell the truth.
Online.
Yeah?
So I believe what my email said was, at least, I'm not sure if this is the one that you're thinking of, but it's one of the emails.
Okay.
One of the emails was saying that, you weren't, from my perspective, recognizing kind of your role in our relationship, in the sense that just the things that you were doing were, not always, good for me, in my opinion. Some of the things that I felt you weren't fully acknowledging and addressing my needs, and you were putting the problems of our relationship on me. And I felt like you were just putting them on me, and you weren't really acknowledging that you had any part in those problems.
Do you still feel that?
To a degree.
Okay, so here we are, 4.5 years later. This is the way things come around. So we're 4.5 years later. And in fact, if I had it, but I don't have it right now, but I will get it. I have the letter you wrote me.
Yeah.
I was fired. You fired me.
Yeah, I didn't
At the
remember
same time you fired Sherry Cohen. You fired us both. It was a Saturday night massacre. Yeah?
Did I, specifically write you're fired?
Yeah.
I did. Okay.
Well, you wrote...
I wrote conditions, right?
You wrote no. Well, I'll read the letter.
Okay, you can read
We'll
the
have
letter.
it. I still have it. I saved it so that because I knew that we'd kind of circle back around sometime. So I will find and we'll read that letter and discuss it in a future program when we have advertisers and we're making like lots of money from like all the what do they call it when you
Sponsors.
the sponsors, but when
Endorsements.
product placement,
Endorsements.
product placement.
Yeah, product
We'll
placement.
put product placement because then we'll have a Coke here. Except I don't drink Coke.
Wait for it.
Well, Poland Springs water. We can have Poland Springs water. Yep, Poland Springs. Pay up, Poland Springs. We put you in. Send us a check, Poland Springs, $1,000, and we'll call us equal. Poland Springs. Owned by Nestle's, I think. Now. They won't say it on the label, I bet.
They don't say it.
It's owned by some Nestle's or Coke or one of those bought.
Nestle,
Poland
yeah,
Springs.
Nestle. Yeah, it
Yeah.
says Nestle.
Nestle is a wholly owned subsidiary of Halliburton or something like that.
Is it? Brian's always trying to throw a monkey wrench into these conversations. Confuse me. But never mind. So here we are today. And the reason we're here today is because eventually, this is my opinion. I will stand corrected because we have the man himself here to say. But my opinion is that the reason we stand here today is because Alexander came around and he began to have difficulty with his mother.
That part's true, yeah.
Good! I finally said something true. That's a good thing. All right. And his mother has a way of exaggerating things like that she sent you to like a place overnight to a hospital because Wyoma upset you so much by talking to you that it made it that you couldn't tolerate it. And therefore she told Wyoma never to contact you again.
The causation was an exaggeration, yeah.
So in my opinion, what could have happened and what should have happened, and in fact, there was another friend of mine who said to me that she also had an only child and they were divorced, and the only child was starting, as 12-and-a-half-year-olds are, to rebel against one of the parents and to create an Oedipal triangle. Do you know what an Oedipal triangle is?
As an Oedipus Rex?
Yes. Do you know what an Oedipal triangle is? Do you want me to explain it? An Oedipal triangle is when between the mother and the father and the child there's triangulation. So it's either the mother and the father, or the mother and the child, or the father and the child. And so there's a certain amount, and especially in divorce, for either kind of coming together as a whole, or two of us get together and gang up on the third one. And my experience was that you and your mother got together and ganged up on me. That was my experience.
Somewhat.
Okay.
Somewhat, to a degree.
Yeah. And what that meant was that your mother, who loves you, I believe, very much, but also hovers. She is like a helicopter mama. She would not even let your uncle, she did not want your Uncle Bobby to have time alone with you. She wanted to go for a walk.
She was, is this a different instance that I'm thinking of?
No, I think it's probably the same instance.
Uncle's Day?
I don't know about Uncle's Day. But I know that Bobby described having to have a long conversation with Linda before she would let you walk around the block alone with him.
Okay. think we're thinking of different instances. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different instance where my uncle, my dad's brother, Uncle Bobby to me, he invited me to spend the day with him for Father's Day because I hadn't yet had a rapprochement with my dad.
Good word, rapprochement. Whoa, kid is learning some French. That's good. I like that, rapprochement. That's good. Good. So what did you think about that invitation?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the experience. Yeah, I have a different relationship with Uncle Bobby than my dad does. I'm not sure if there's an edible version of that.
Oh, good points. That's good. I don't know. That's it.
Yeah.
Good.
The
Touche.
triangle.
Touche. We're like into the French. This is like heavy French day. So, anyway, yeah. No, that's interesting. There is. I think you're right. Actually, it's a good point. I never thought of that. Out of the mouths of babes.
I thought you said I was a man.
Well, sometimes a man, sometimes a babe, like all of us. The child within. The child within. So what was difficult is that your mother, in my opinion, did not support us being a family when you, in my opinion, quite appropriately rebelled against me.
So you're saying the rebelling was appropriate?
Yes,
You
absolutely.
You thought that was a good thing?
Yes, I thought it was a very good thing.
Okay, why did you think that was a good thing?
Because when a kid, especially an only child who's been closely coddled and overprotected, gets to be 12 and a half and starts to have his own opinions, instead of suppressed, those need to be encouraged. And there needs to be a delicate balance between a child becoming an adult, because that's what 12 and a half, that's what puberty is about, is becoming, in your case, a man and having your own opinions, which is a good thing. It's good for you to have your own opinions. You're old enough to have your own opinions. What's not so good is to then be entitled to do things that I believe still to this day were inappropriate. You can say your opinion. Go ahead.
All right. I mean, what I'd say is that I remember back then when I decided when I decided to make the break, when I decided to trump you. I remember someone who lived with my dad at that time, Mariba is her name. I'm not sure. She's been mentioned before. Mariba-fied. You got Mariba-fied. Yeah. So what about Mariba? I think she showed me an article, or else I remember her being involved in some manner. So I think she showed me like an article, or maybe it was her article that happened to be in the bathroom one day about like a kid who was about 12, I think, and like his father, I think, had done some kind of worse things than you.
I remember. I saw it in the bathroom. I know.
Right.
I read it.
So I remember that. And, I mean, that happened, and at 12,
no,
you have your voice in the court of law.
For other people. Other people.
Okay.
The point was the father killed the mother. And then the father was in jail and demanded the son come see him because he had parental rights.
So,
and there was a court case. There was a court case in which he was emancipated. He was legally emancipated from any responsibility he had to his father.
Because at 12, you have your voice heard in the court of law, so that applied to me too. The father killing the mother thing, not really.
Not exactly. Not exactly. Wish is not included here. We're not talking wish fulfillment or anything. We're not talking dreams. We're not talking cartoons. We're talking like real life. Didn't happen. Never happened. I just want you to know, I just want you to attest that you saw her this morning and she is alive and kicking.
Yep.
Yep, she's alive and kicking.
This banana she bought me from Whole Foods.
I rest my case. I rest my case. Just so that the people in our listening audience know that there's some boundaries. So, I never would have done that. Never had it. Never laid a hand on her. Now, wanting, wishing, that's a different story, but never touched her, never even threatened to touch her. Just want y'all to know that out there in TV land, because there's some weirdo people out here, in here, over here, under there, wherever they are. There's some weirdo people. Let me show you. This is not talking about our site. It's not talking about Herbie Perlman Universe by any means. But there are some weird sites where you can see some kinky things happen. You are not going to see kinky things on this site. Except, well, never mind. We won't go there, at least today. So, what I started to say was that at that point, at 12 and a half, when you were having your voice, in my opinion, quite appropriately, it was also appropriate for your mother to step up and say, yes, I support you, but you need to stay in relationship with your father. Whether you like him or don't like him, there need to be spaces where you're interacting. Otherwise, your development will be arrested. Okay, now you can say your piece.
I mean, to a degree, I think that's a valid point. But at the same time, one of the reasons why I felt the need to fire Sherry Cohen and the need to distance myself from you is because my mom didn't stand up for herself, I felt. Or at least not as much as she should. And I felt like because of that, I kind of had to protect her to a degree.
Huh, that's interesting. So tell me how she didn't stand up for herself, in your opinion.
Well, I mean, just even in the interactions between the two of you, which were not always friendly.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, it is.
But we won't go there at this moment.
Yeah. So, I mean, she didn't really stand up to you in that sense. Also, I mean, what she said, going back to the Oedipal triangle, right? Mm-hmm. What she said to me is that he was manipulating our therapist, Sherry Cohen. But even if that was the case, which I'm not really convinced of, even if it was the case, then why didn't she stand up to Sherry Cohen? And why didn't she stand up to my dad in regard to that? She kind of complained to me about some things, but it seemed like she never took action on them. And
what things did she complain about?
I mean, that as an example that Sherry Cohen was kind of manipulating sessions.
But that's an opinion. I don't share that opinion. I think that Sherry Cohen was in fact...
Right, but I mean, if she thinks that, Sherry Cohen isn't doing her job and that you're manipulating her, I mean, to me it would make sense to speak with both you and with Sherry Cohen about that. And I mean, I'm not sure if she did that, but even if she did, that wasn't communicated to me, and it seemed like she still had a problem with it, so it wasn't addressed. So, if it's still a problem, then, I mean, it doesn't seem like she's fully standing up for herself,
So then, here's what to me is the place where I feel really betrayed by your mother. Because it seems to me, you're entitled to your opinion, she's entitled to her opinion, but we had agreed to use Sherry Cohen so that before the two of you just blew the whole thing off,
Well,
wait, no, let me finish. You need to let me finish, then you can speak again, because I have not finished. Before you blow the whole thing off, you need to then come into the situation. It was, after all, a therapist's office. It was contained, so it was only 50 minutes to go in and at least have that conversation directly. If you feel that she's letting herself be whatever, you need to say that to everybody concerned, and to say, on that basis, I'm going to do this, that, or the other thing. But for there to be a place where you hear Sherry Cohen's response to that, you hear my response to that, you hear your mother's response.
Can I interject now?
Yes, now you can interject.
Okay. What I would say is that, there was a degree of fear for me back then, as I recall, in relation to Sherry Cohen. I said that I don't completely buy that my dad was manipulating her now, but back then, there was still a degree of fear. And then
So
also,
say what the fear was about.
Wait. I get to finish now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to answer your question, I guess, since my mind's now on that, there was the fear because, I've had this experience in other ways, just being young, especially at, the age of 12, my voice isn't always heard and my needs aren't always met. I felt that was probably part of the problem. One of the problems in regard to my dad, in regard to living with him. But first, to finish this line of thought, with Sherry Cohen, I didn't want her to kind of bring us back into that situation that felt so uncomfortable. I felt it had gotten to a point where I just didn't want to ever see her again, and once things get to a certain point, I feel like it's better to take action than to overthink it, because if I overthink it, then it just gets mixed up in my head, it gets messy, and it may not really accomplish anything, whereas just having some space, sometimes that's the best solution. And I felt that was the best solution for my relationship with my dad back then, and I feel like that's the best solution for my relationship with my mom now.
Well, are you done? Can I say something? So, it seems to me that one of the things that I feel your mother did as a disservice to you was that you, I believe, are over-empowered and over-entitled. That even at a young age, to give a kid the choice at 12 and a half years old not to see his father does a disservice to him. Wait, let me finish. Let me finish. There are 4.5 years, which, one of the issues is that you have only had your mother's opinion about things around you. And that, I think, has skewed your view of the world in a way that does not serve you, does not help you.
That's from your skewed lens.
Of course, I'm talking from my lens, always talking from my lens. But I think why a person has two parents is because if you only see from one lens, and I think you have for a number of years only seen from Linda's lens. Even Linda, you've only seen from the Linda lens.
Yeah.
and you don't really understand my lens because you
Yeah.
distance yourself, in
And
my
that's-
opinion,
and that's why I'm
prematurely.
here, and that's why I'm here now.
Okay, fair enough.
And now I'm distancing myself from her.
Right.
So do you think that's a bad decision too?
Well, you know, for me, what I would do and what I will do, what I feel was the huge betrayal that your mother did was that distancing is one thing, not having any contact is another. Allowing that to keep on going where there's no contact.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I would not,
Right.
however much I feel betrayed by her, I do not feel it would serve you not to have a relationship with her. And for 4.5 years, you did not have a relationship with me. And I think that leaves you emotionally arrested because you don't have to deal with someone who's hard for you and someone who is who loves you, who's hard for you. You know, that is the nature of having a successful life, is how people who actually care about each other manage a relationship where often there's very, very different ways of seeing the world. And you have to find a way, in my opinion, which is why I kept trying to make contact with you, even though I was getting really negative feedback.
Yeah.
I kept up because I'm your father and I care about you and want what's best for you. And so even if your choice is not to give me the time of day, I'm not going to get discouraged by that. I'm going to keep making an effort. And what I will now do, whatever happens in your relationship with your mother, is to be a very strong advocate for you continuing to have a relationship with her. I don't think you necessarily have to like her. I don't like her myself. But a relationship is important because she is your mother and she does at some level love you.
I mean, my mom, I would say, definitely distanced the gap. She could have tried to, after, I don't know, a month or something, have us, interact again, I guess.
Well, I mean, I think for me, where she really fell down was, I mean, she should have come in to say whatever she had to say to Sherry Cohen, at least one more time, because as you know, I mean, I think you have some experience of therapy. One of the most important parts of therapy is termination.
I do not have experience with termination.
Well, I think that's
the
that's
termination session that you mentioned. I don't have experience with that.
I think that's a shame.
And before you mentioned it, mentioning it here reminded me of the other time that you mentioned this to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but before you mentioned that concept of a termination session, I didn't know that there was a specific thing for terminating therapy. I don't think I even knew.
Part of the usually the explicit, but certainly always the implicit assumption is that if you're going to do therapy with someone, you at least, because the therapist is a human being too, are signing up for at least doing one session where you say, I'm stopping and here's why. Or here, I'm done, or I don't like you anymore, or I don't think this is valuable.
But, I mean, you need to pay for that?
Yeah,
For the
that's
termination
part of the deal.
session?
Yes.
You need
part
to
of the deal.
pay.
Yes.
You need to pay money
That's
to tell
part of
them
the deal.
that.
That's part of the
I mean,
deal. We live in a capitalist society, and that's you're signing on for a service, and that's the service, and the service includes termination. And I was willing to pay, still am. In fact, I still think it's an important thing. And you know that you buy a lot of services in which you pay for, I mean, like you signed up, you know, you went to the International Leadership Conference, and they want to keep your money because you signed up, you didn't want to do it anymore, but the deal is they're going to keep your money.
Well,
They're not going to prorate your leaving.
there are more details to that, but I can explain some of those in the future. I
Yes.
think.
Yes. We're gonna wrap now. We have not finished by any means. This will be continued at a later date because we're talking truth here. Thank you, Brian, for all your help. Whoa, Brian behind the camera. Flash that camera on Brian's middle finger. We'll end right there.